Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. It is Friday, and that means we are starting back up again with those obscurities in literature. And check out this gorgeous obscurity in front of me. This is Wonder Woman Historia, The Amazons. Now, I've never been a huge fan of Wonder Woman growing up, not through any fault of anyone's really. I always wanted to check out the George Perez stuff as a teen, but I was too cool, so to speak, to be reading girly comics or something along those lines. And I just never got around to it, and I was always a big fan of Perez's stuff. After reading this book, I may go back and actually change my tune on that. I own very few Wonder Woman books. One of the only other books predominantly focused on her is Daniel Warren Johnson's Dead Earth, which I absolutely enjoyed. I have a video on it already. Do check it out. Great, fun, wild ride. Also part of the Black Label, much like this book. Now, there's two different covers, but I had to go with the Phil Jimenez one. It is just gorgeous. And immediately, this cover is what drew me to this book. Now, Wonder Woman may be in the title, but she has absolutely nothing really to do with this. This is all about the Amazons of DC's universe and the gods and goddesses that populate those myths of the Amazons. And for that, I really enjoyed it. Okay, I've always loved creation myths, lore, mythology, all the things that go along with it. And just the art in this book. You do have three actual artists. Each section, there are three sections of this book, is divided up by very competent, very talented artists. But honestly, it was just shots fired with the first issue with Phil Jimenez's art. And that cover just gorgeous, glorious work. First thing is, I really dig what he did with a lot of the gods and goddesses. He kind of put his own mark on them because as far as I know, none of them ever looked like this, and I like it. I like what I see. One thing that's worth noting is underneath the actual cover, the whole cover itself is a big gatefold of all the various Amazons. I don't like how my book is creaking every time I open it. That worries me. But it's this big, huge spread of all the Amazons that show up in the story. And they've got like some design sketches in the back. And they just look great. One of the things I love about this first issue is just the detailing that goes into the page. You've got these really elaborate borders everywhere. Just the way that you've got the panels just packed on. I mean, and they get packed. And it's just gorgeous. I don't say that about a lot of comics. I really don't. Especially like superhero or superhero-related comics. I don't feel that a lot of them deserve that. But all three artists involved in this really just knocked it out of the park. The first issue, though, I mean, Jimenez is just kind of going off and doing this whole thing. And that's not to say anything about the writing either. I mean, I really like what the author was trying to put, and I wanted to make sure I got the name right. DeConnick. I was going to say Connor. That's not right. But it's just, there's a lot going on here, and it's impressive. The first volume especially, as I said, you've got these really dense pages, just panels packed with stuff going on. If ever DC was going to put out, I mean, to me, this is like one of those books I honestly would consider getting like the big Absolute edition, which are much larger. This is already a good size, but I would appreciate having a book like this in an even bigger format, like Marvel's Treasury stuff. It just looks great as you have all the goddesses and all their avatars invading Zeus and all his boys. And none of them look like anything the typical DC superheroics, which is pretty cool. Then we get into the actual story of the Amazons. But to me, the first volume especially, where you have all the gods and goddesses at play with each other, is just the most impressive. Again, you've got these great panels just packing the pages. Bad stuff happening. get to the second issue. And I'm not going to spoil too much, but again, every issue starts off with an induction to the goddesses. And while our issues, like I said, the first issue, really impressive stuff. Don't want to show it all to you, but every artist really just goes all out trying to display Hera as the, queen of the goddesses, as Zeus's wife. It's cool stuff. You get into the story, and I like how they kept having all of the gods and goddesses playing out with these panoramic statue scenes. It just gave me a bit of a Clash of the Titans vibe, and I wonder if that was almost intentional, and I would like to think it was. The designs are really cool. Tabletop artists, take note. There are some neat things in this book to take a pass at. The gods and goddesses tell stories, and they're always recreated in these like line art. It's fun stuff. And eventually, at the closing of the second book, the beginning of the third, we have the War of the Gods, which is what puts the Amazons into their current situation, or where they started things off in the DC universe, especially in a post-crisis world. Nicholas Scott's Hera looking quite nice there as well. Again, as I said, every issue invokes the goddesses. A neat touch. Gets a big, giant display of Hera. Things happen. We have our War of the Gods, which I'm going to skip over and not show you because, honestly, I felt like there could have been more. I was a little bummed out that it didn't end with a whimper, but I wanted more. I feel like they could have piled more in, and I don't want to spoil it because there's some cool stuff there. But in the back of the book, we've got these really nice line art for a lot of the designs. Like I said, Jimenez seems to have done the most work in terms of the designs. And there's some neat stuff, like I said. We get into Gene Han, the setup of the pages, and Scott's own work as well in getting to paint these pages, and all the panels are part of them. And I'm going to stop it right there because, like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, but I love this kind of story, the backstory. It fills in gaps, even if you're not a fan necessarily of the character that it ties back into, and they do have Diana, in a way, show up in this story. I mean, she's basically right there on the cover. Not that that's giving it away, but no, that actually does tie back to the story too. It's not often that like I said, I find a story that really connects with me that maybe isn't necessarily closely related to the character that it is part of the mythos of or whatever, but like I said, this one really resonated with me. I'm not even sure how I found out about it. I don't really follow much in the way of comics. It's just one of those things. I think Amazon saw that I'd bought Dead Earth, and they're like, you would like this because we know you have impeccable taste in art, which I do. So it was a really cool book to discover. Glad I got it. And I think if you enjoy those kinds of retellings of myths, and especially from a different perspective, it's got a very feminist angle to things, which is cool to see. Very much from the Amazon's point of view. And there's some disagreements in what, the traditional versions of the stories are versus how things play out here, which is kind of a fun touch as well. And again, the art is just absolutely gorgeous. It is definitely worth poring over. There's a lot going on. And I think, with the advent of digital art, digital painting, we can see artists really going to town on a book like this. And I think we need more of that. Give those artists those extended deadlines. Let them play around. Let them have fun with what they're doing. Let those colors and the detail just pop off the page. I'm not even sure who the centaur is supposed to be there. I'm pretty sure this is Hephaestus. I don't even remember. I don't even know if it's in the back. It's just like one of these little panels. I can only imagine what the original pages looked like, too, before all the extra panels got added on, if they exist in that form. creakiness really bugs me. That's the only big downside, I think, to this book. We've got the tribes. I guess we don't have a thing on the gods. That's a shame. Oh well. There's still plenty of fun stuff there. And like I said, this is one of those few books that I liked it that much that I would probably go and look for an absolute edition if and when one does come out. So I'm going to have to keep my eyes peeled on that. We'll put a link down on Amazon if you guys want to take a look as well. And hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I did. So, with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye!